Welcome to another episode of Tales from a Professional Nerd. My name is Bryan C.P. Steele, and I will be your professional nerd today, as I will be anytime that you turn on one of my crazy episodes or any of the past 99 plus some special stuff. That's right, everybody. Today is the 100th episode of Tales from a Professional Nerd. Today's gonna be a weird day. 2 weeks ago, I took a week off because I needed to kind of get some life stuff in order, prep things, that sort of stuff. But today is going to be a different kind of episode because I had actually asked you guys, you subscribers, to give me some ideas of what I wanted to do special for 100th episode. And the comments and the messages that I got, honestly, people just kind of wanted me to do me today. To just sort of kind of take a day to myself to kick back and just kind of talk to the audience as a whole. And so I was thinking about it, and what I came up with is I decided that after we do the segment of what I've been up to professionally, is we're just gonna go back. We're gonna look back at the tales. We're gonna look back at Tales and kind of take a look at some of the episodes and remember why I did it, and just kind of maybe bring things up to speed, because I mean, honestly, at this point it's been I think a little over, just shy of 2 years, or a little over 2 years of worth of doing these episodes. I'd have to look at the actual original release date, but it's been a hot minute. We've been doing this a while. Obviously still not monetized or anything like that. YouTube's not making me rich. But this definitely, as an avenue, has benefited me greatly on multiple levels, which we'll get into as we dig into the looking back on the old episodes. But first, let's do the weeks in Bryan, because it's been 2 weeks. Honestly, this is gonna sound super kind of boring. I haven't done much other than work. I got caught up in the deadline swoosh, as what I like to say, is when I start looking at things on my schedule and go, oh man, I got bills to pay, I got deadlines to meet, I gotta get stuff under control. So for the last 2 weeks, I haven't really played any D&D. We didn't play Curse of Strahd. I've played a couple of board games with my family on like our family nights. But overall, it's been a lot of just work. A lot of just get the words down, get the painting done, get it going. Mostly because my next month or so is going to be pretty busy. I contracted out to do some narrative on a cool board game for Renegade, which I'll tell you more when that comes around. Apparently, it is going to be a Kickstarter game later this year. The card game that I sold to Cursed Empire is going to hit Kickstarter in 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks. So I'm sure I'll probably be letting people know, hey, back that up, because I really want to see that succeed. The Power Rangers / G.I. Joe / Transformer stuff has been going very strong. We're doing really good getting that in front of the kind of final sets of eyes and beta testers and things like that, before it ends up going to print and things. And collectively, kind of, I want to say, as an industry, I think we're all sort of getting ready for things to maybe start moving back towards conventions. I know it's going to be a little shaky for a little while. There's a lot of people that are like, I don't trust big groups. I don't want to, we don't want to get in this early. which is why I don't think I'm going to do Origins this year, which is I want to say in July, or maybe it got moved back. I don't remember. But I think that might be just a little too early. There's not going to be enough people out there that have been vaccinated to help kind of curb it from being a spreader as far as the virus goes. I do think that by the time we get to September, which will be Gen Con, I think that we'll be in a much better place. So long as, honestly, so long as people start using their brain and not politicize what is a health crisis. You know, there are too many people out there like, I'm not taking the shot because it's a Democrat mind control device. They're just doing it to control us. No, they're doing it because we want life to get back to normal. And I don't know what happened. I'm gonna get again. I try not to get political on my channel, but I don't know what happened to the American people. But somewhere along the line, a bunch of them decided that it is more important to be right than safe, and or at least viewed right, because obviously the science is plain. You're not right. It is not factual. You're dragging your heels. You're making it unsafe for other people. Cut it out. Nobody's taking this vaccine and then suddenly being like, I am a democratic robot. That's not happening. What's happening is people are getting the vaccine and they're not carrying the germs anymore. They're not passing it on to people who are susceptible. It's just a smart thing to do. There's a reason why the polio vaccine was mandatory. Like it was. You went and got your kid was old enough. Shwoomp, you got the vaccine because it was killing people and crippling people, and they took care of it. We're now in a situation that, in that era, they would have just said, okay, go get your shot. I remember when I was in elementary school, maybe junior high, there was a measles epidemic, and they basically told everybody, if you want to go to public school, go get a measles shot. If not, you're staying home. You don't get to come to school. You are going to fail. That's just how it was. And there weren't people that were throwing protests and having a fit about, I can't believe they're making me give medicine to my kids. It was for the betterment of the people to eliminate the spread of this disease. And that's where we're at now. But yet, for whatever reason, now we have a generation of people that are questioning the science behind it because it might be some kind of politically motivated thing. And it's like, no, just go get the damn shot. Wear a mask. Just be safe. Stop the virus, you idiots. All right, so sorry, went on a little tirade there. My apologies. I did not mean to go on my little rant. Things have been good work-wise. Again, I've been writing and designing and smashing stuff out, doing a bunch of painting. I'm almost done with that big Blood Bowl commission that I've been working on for the last couple weeks. And then I believe there's a guy who I've been talking to might have me do a couple of Imperial Guard tanks. I haven't painted a tank in a while, so that'll be fun. That'll be a lot of fun. And until that gets to me, I might be able to actually paint something of mine. I might actually be able to paint like a Necron thing. What? So, speaking of 40K, speaking of models and things, I got the bug. I got bit. So last week, over at Games Workshop, WarhammerCommunity.com, they had a Warhammer week. It was Warhammer Fest, because again, no one can have conventions anymore, right now anyway. so a lot of people have like these, week long. Here we're gonna stream a bunch of news. We're gonna show you a bunch of cool stuff. Here's a bunch of cool videos and things, which is awesome. It's a great way of keeping people in the loop. Well, everyone knows. I mean, if you've been listening to this at all, I have been a Necron player for a million years. Like ever since we only had 4 models and they were terrible, I was always a Necron player. I even took time off as a 40k player, like didn't play 40k, and then came back to do more stuff with my Necrons. I had been a Blood Angels player, I've been a Tyranid player, I've been a World Eaters player. I've had all kinds of second armies. I've had some third armies that almost always get collected, painted. I play with them a little bit. I go, yay, this is fun. And then at some point, I part ways with them. I sell them to someone else and let them, let the models go out into the universe and let other people enjoy them. And then I take that money and I invest it in other things. It is just how I am. And the Necrons have always been my mainstay. Well, there is one army that I have never owned. And that is never in 40k, never in fantasy. I suppose I had them when we played Gorka Morka because everybody had them, because it was the only army that existed. But I've never had orcs. I've never been an orc player. It's not because I don't like their models or I don't like their play style. They just never spoke to me, or someone in my play group was already a solid orc player and I just didn't want to step on their toes. Like, hey, you're the orc guy. You smash out some orc stuff. Well, during Warhammer Fest last week, they started showing off some new orc models, and initially some of these models I saw and I was just like, man, those are cool. Like, I kind of want to pick up there's this new model called the Pain Boss that's like a super pain boy, and orc pain boys are basically like their version of doctors, but the Pain Boss is just this amazing model. He's got cybernetic legs, he's got a big cyborg arm, this cool metal faceplate. It's just a very cool looking model that I really want to paint. And so I kind of dog-eared it as, you know what, I'll pick it up, paint it, sell it on eBay, that kind of thing. Give me something to scratch the itch. Well, a couple days later, they showed pictures of these like squig cavalry. So if you're not a 40k or fantasy or Age of Sigmar player, squigs are effectively, they're like, if you ever watched or read the comic book The Max, Izzes with little balls of teeth that run around and just basically, if you get too close, they get chomped on. That's kind of what squigs are. Squigs are like if you crossed an Izz with a Attack of the Killer Tomatoes tomato. They're just this weird ball-like tomato lizard fungus thing that's just got this giant mouth. And when you get too close to them, and squigs have always been one of the reasons why I've enjoyed watching orcs or reading about orcs or painting orcs, is the fact that there's these crazy tomato fungus monster lizard things that bounce around, and then they do bounce. There are instances in some of the other games where a squig will like. Literally, the orcs will throw squigs in a catapult and launch it, and they'll go boom, 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 and then like bite people. And so the idea of a slightly larger squig being ridden by an orc, I'm like, all right, that's pretty cool. I dig that. And then there was like another picture that came out that was like a squig that had its legs replaced with a little unicycle, like a gas powered unicycle, and I'm like, it's like a mono squig. Weird. And then another came out and it showed basically this giant heavy monster squig that had like a metal plate on its head, which reminded me of my favorite dinosaur, the Pachycephalosaurus. And I'm like, man, they are just knocking it out of the park with these cool squig figures. And then Warhammer Fest let us know why. They had created a new kind of branch of the orc force called the the Snagga Boys. Basically, they are heavy on bionics because they lose a lot of their limbs tending all their squigs, and they're very heavy on squigs. And it occurred to me that I officially got a deep enough itch to want to use some of those models that I think, unless something bad happens and I have to like kind of pull back and pause on it or something, I think I'm going to start a Snagaboy force. Try and get as many like squig themed stuff on the table. A bunch of like, these savage monster hunter orcs. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm going to add a bunch of. I'll add some of that stuff to my my Amazon wish list. Which I don't know if I mentioned the show. I officially started an Amazon wish list. A couple of my fans and a couple of my friends said, because over the last couple of years, I've received presents from some of you guys, like my 3D printer, like my Necron Seraptech. I've received some, like my entire Necromunda force. I've received some gifties from you guys, as I guess thank you for making content or whatever. But they've always been super surprises. They've always been like, oh, I mentioned that I dug this, or oh, this is crazy. And one of my friends was like, well, why don't you create an Amazon wish list? A lot of people do this on other websites and things where they're basically like, this is stuff that would help out the studio. This is stuff that will help me out as a gamer or as a person or whatever. Why don't you basically give the fans an opportunity to go click on something, put various items on there of from down to the super cheapest like replacement ink ribbons or whatever, all the way up to in this case I think my most expensive thing right now is a new office chair, because I'm still using my kitchen chair because my old office chair busted. But the link for that is in the description of the video, and I guess I'll just update it and keep posting the link. I feel weird asking people to go check out my Christmas list sort of thing, but I guess it does make sense from a content creator's point of view, rather than if somebody wants to do something nice for their content creators or whatever, it is best to let them know what would be the most useful than it would be than just kind of taking a shot in the dark and then going, oh, look, I got this thing that I guess I'll just sit on a shelf, or whatever. Thank you very much, but So now that that's done, Amazon wish list and the thing, blah. All right. Go this weekend, to kind of roll out the finish the weekend Bryan kind of thing, is tomorrow night. I've got D&D with the group that had we've taken a couple of weeks off. There was a pretty stressful game that happened a couple weeks ago where a couple of the players, note players not characters, a couple of the players kind of went at it. They didn't, it did not go well. It made everybody uncomfortable, and the session had to end early. It was just rough. It was one of those situations where I'll probably do an episode on it. It's not that instance, but I'll probably do an episode on that kind of thing in the future. Kind of, how do you as a game master handle player problems, problems between players, it rocked our game kind of to the core. We weren't really sure where we wanted to go with it, but we took a couple of weeks off. It is one of the games that we try to play every week, which also I think lends itself to higher stress. When you are every week on the week. It's we must do this, we must do that. That I think it adds to the tension of getting things done, making it happen. Making sure that we're it almost becomes an obligation. And anything that happens, stress and tension always goes up a little further anyway. But we're supposed to play tomorrow night, so we'll see. Hopefully that'll go. And this weekend, I'm supposed to run my family D&D game again. I'm so excited because the group is my family group is starting to get close to the kind of epic part of the plot. They've really only gotten a taste of it so far. And the next session or two is really gonna, or 3 or 4, depending on how they, meander, is really gonna show them the kind of like what they're supposed to be doing. What's the angle? Most D&D games has some kind of overarching plot. There's some kind of big bad evil guy or gal that they're trying to fight against, or some kind of prophecy or something like that. They have not gotten there yet. So right now, I know a lot of what they are just sort of doing is, I guess we're just trying to make some money and get some treasure for our characters. They're doing the level grinding of well, we don't really know what's going on. Like, they're about ready to find out a big part of what's going on, or at least get set on the right path to learn the big part of what is going on. And so I'm really excited, and I hope that we'll be able to get far enough that they'll, get hooked by the plot. That's the goal anyway. Again, juggling preteens. One is a teenager now. My stepdaughter officially is 13 as of this week. I have a teenager in the house. And my boy is 12, and he'll be 13 in December. So, getting old. But yeah, so that's this weekend, and then we go into next week, and hopefully be wrapping up on some projects and get to show you guys some things. I'm getting to dig back into the new Shadowrun novel. I got really inspired. My last full-length Shadowrun novel, Tourist Trapped, just came out, and some of the reviews are starting to come in, and people are starting to enjoy it. And I got one of my friends from college. I got literally a message out of the blue that was like, had a bunch of like notes that obviously they're reading my book, and they were like, hey, between this and this, you're speaking my language. The story's really cool. I can't wait to get to the end of it. And I gotta say, that was getting a good review, a personal, like, face-to-face or email-to-email review from someone that you know and care about from your own past, means so much more than any kind of accolade that you see on Amazon, or if you look up the ISBN on the book and see that it's getting at 4.5 stars right now, which is out of 5 is good. I'm happy about that. That one of the seeing those reviews is awesome, but basically getting a message from someone that I know and care about out of my own life, that they chose to pick up this book, they chose to read this book, they're obviously making their way through it and have cool comments to talk about it. That is a I don't want to say it's like writer ambrosia, but it definitely does help make you feel like you're doing the right thing, and it sparked a lot of my interest to get back into throwing down some extra words on the Shadowrun, the new Shadowrun novel, and I'm excited about that one too. I mean, it's ways off before that's even going to remotely come out, but I get to touch on some things in that novel that have not been, aside from just sort of being brushed over in the role-playing game. I get to actually dig my teeth in and show people, like one of those, hey, this is the information you might be able to bring to your game tables and stuff in the future. So, super excited about that. All right, well, you know what? I've been running my mouth for a while about what I've been up to. Let's talk about what the channel's been up to. So, 100 episodes, and that's not completely disingenuous, because there's been a couple of bonus episodes, and there's been so the Arcane Promise, the Spelljammer game that I run on the side from time to time, which I need to get back to trying to run that more regularly, just because I want to make more content for you guys. But the because the gaming industry is starting to get back to people doing things again, and starting to have appearances and more stuff like that. It is starting to turn into a situation where I don't know if I'm going to be able to do if I'm going to be able to plan those schedules out, because it's a game filled with industry professionals, which means we're all busy, and so trying to actually figure out when you're going to get to play is an uphill battle, to say the least. So I'm hoping that I'll at least be able to get another couple of episodes in, before things completely go back to normal, and then potentially I have been looking into it, not to ever leave you Tales fans in a lurch, obviously, but I have been looking into the potassium. I've been looking into the potential of maybe starting to do some stuff on Twitch. I don't know yet, because I don't know if I have the spare bandwidth in my life to start up another regular anything. But there is a part of me that is thinking about, if I start a Twitch channel, I might run short games, like games that are only like 3 or 4 sessions long, almost convention style games, and just take invites, take people, from out in the world. If I can figure out how to dial them in. Again, it's a lot of some of it's tech savviness, or lack therein. But we'll see. I don't know. I don't want to promise anything either way. But there is I almost said potassium. What is wrong with my brain? There is a possibility that there may be a Tales from a Professional Nerd Twitch channel in the future. Yeah, so we'll see. But yeah, let's take a look at the history of this, where we've come from. So, because I am weirdly structured, like I always want to know what I've done, where I've done, but rather than keeping an Excel document, which would make sense, or going to the actual YouTube control center and doing, I have a list of all of the links of every Tales from that I've ever done. I basically, when I upload everything, I add it to this list. It's just a Word document that I keep going, that lets, from our very first intro vid, where I was letting people know that I was starting, all the way to the 100th episode, which doesn't have a link to it because I haven't uploaded this to YouTube yet. So yeah, basically I just keep track of it this way, and I figured I'd print this out and we would just kind of run through here and just kind of go through some of the highlights and things that over these last couple years, we've had a chance to talk about. And for new viewers, for people who are just now joining the professional nerd family, that maybe one of these past episodes, if I mention what they are, you go, holy crap, I should go back and check it out. Some people I know started at the beginning and have been with us the whole time. Others I know have started at the beginning late, and they're slowly catching up. They're watching multiple videos a day or a week or whatever. And I want to kind of go through and just sort of refresh what we've accomplished here, what we've done over the last 100 episodes, because it really has come a long way. So from video 1, episode 1, the intro of where I said, hey, my name's Bryan C.P. Steele, and I'm a nerd. From that point forward, where my brain was at that time was very much, I was in a bad place. I've mentioned this on a couple of podcast interviews. I've mentioned this to other people, is my position with Cool Money or Not, Simon, Come On, depending on who you talk to. I had been working with them full-time for a long time. I was in charge of Dark Age and Wrath of Kings for a long time, and then for the last year and a half of that job, it was very unfulfilling. It was a paycheck, which was awesome, and it was in the industry, which is awesome, but I did not feel like I was creating enough. I did not feel like I was that a lot of what I was doing actually mattered. I was kind of spiraling a little bit out of control, and then when it came around to the new year, my supervisors had said, we understand you should be doing something else in this company, but there's no room for you at that time, and I got let go. And it hit me particularly hard, because I was dealing with some other kind of family drama, my wife's health, just really, it was a bad time. It was a bad time, and they gave me a significant severance, and I was basically, it was almost like setting a countdown timer of, all right, I've got this much time, get your stuff together, make it happen, figure out what you're going to do. And as I kind of floundered, I was picking up the occasional little gig here and there, but overall I was just didn't know what I was going to do. And it really did look like I was going to possibly have to get back into the non-industry side of life, that I was going to need to maybe pick up a different kind of job. And for those of you who are not in the industry, that are watching this, or those of you who want to be in the industry, there is one thing that is kind of a constant, is if you lose the momentum, if you lose the connections and the networking, and you sort of drift away from your position in the industry, it is 10 times harder to come back, because the industry remembers that you have drifted away. And I know that sounds bleak and super dark and dismal, but it is. The other industry people will remember that you went from someone who was completely devoted, 100% full-time employee, to the guy who did it as on the side, but primarily, you sold cell phones or whatever your other gig was. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but I was in a position where for several years, for upwards of 2 decades, um, this was my job. The industry was my job, and it was really starting to look like I may have to leave that behind in order to be able to keep a roof over my head, to keep my family fed, and I got very emotionally dark. Um, I don't think that I was ever clinically depressed or anything, but I definitely got in a bad way. It was not a great spot. And my wife Natalie, she said, you need to do something to help get this out. And so initially, what I was planning on doing was starting this little YouTube thing as more like a video journal, like a way for me to get my thoughts out onto the page, or out into the thing. And after the first couple of episodes, because if you look, the episodes 2, 3, and 4 are mostly about just basically kind of the etiquette of being a good gamer, of being, being a good gamer, being a good creative. How do you sit down and make something, out of thin air. It was a way for me to uh, put into words, into conversation, what I needed to be doing, what I wanted to be doing, trying to keep myself focused by telling other people, hey, this is what you need to do. I was also telling myself, this is what I need to do. And then starting with like video 5, I start talking about Kickstarters, where discussing the fact that I've mentioned Kickstarter several times. It's a big part of our industry now, and it is a double-edged sword. There's a lot of companies out there that live by them now, and that would not be able to continue business the way that they have been without it. And there are a lot of small independent companies, little small one-offs, that need the Kickstarters to be able to create. And I found myself in a position where I was thinking about, what's the next thing I might be able to Kickstarter, because I need to be able to try and make a nest egg, make a project, something that will push me forward and keep me in this industry. And then I ended up, shortly after that, I started picking up small gigs here and there. Started doing a lot of painting commissions, and one of the things that came up, that brought around episode 8. Episode 8 was the friendship connection, that basically explained why gaming is so important on an emotional level. I had found that people that I had met through the industry, through gaming, through making games, through conventions, that I needed them as a support system. I needed them to help me get out of this dark spot, and not only did they help keep my brain on straight, but it showed me and opened up doors for me that allowed me to continue working in the industry. I ended up getting some contracts, positions, because of people that I knew in the industry, and people who I had befriended, and people who knew me as a person. I wasn't a stranger, so when I looked at them and was like, hey, if you got any work, and they were like, you know what, I trust you, I know your stuff, let's talk about that. And it really did help bring me up, up and out of things. Shortly thereafter that, we did the Gen Con charity Spelljammer game, which was super fun. What a great, we started talking about it and trying to get people pumped up about it. It did pretty well. It made a couple $100. I wish that we could have made a bigger deal out of it, but there was just, it was short notice, and frankly, at that time, I don't think that I had nearly the clout that I do now, to be able to draw in people like Satine Phoenix or Jameson Stone or Stephen Picorno, some of these role playing greats. I don't think I could. Definitely I couldn't at that time, but I might be able to actually get them at a charity table now. Now that I've had a chance to talk to them and play games with them and enjoy other events with them. I think that might be something that I could do in the future. So while it was a lot of fun to talk about it and get it set up and get it prepped, I think that it could be more successful now. Then I had a episode 10, the No Origins Hobby Time episode. I remember that being almost like a tongue-in-cheek of, all right, I'm recording this when all my friends are at Origins having super fun Origins time, and so we were doing painting and stuff of just doing this because where the heck that come from? Well, I'm doing this because I can't be at Origins enjoying myself. And then I started getting into episodes that I wanted to try and explain some things to people, to try and help them as players or as creatives, down the road. Episode 11 was the key to the key to good role playing. Obviously an opinion piece, but it was a way for me to basically try and explain what I see as good role playing at the table, and some of the best things, some of the best players I've ever been around, what makes them shine. Talk about as a designer, what I like to make, whether it is stiff balanced rules or things that are just let's talk about have stuff that you want to see on the table, even though it might not be the best unit in the world, when it comes to like wargaming and things. And then we start getting into some of these episodes. We've got talk about the edition wars as episode 13, where we discuss why games have to go through first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth editions, why it is a necessity in the industry, and it's not just a company going, I'm greedy and I want more money. It is necessary for a successful product to go through new editions, and also as a business model, you can't just put one thing out and then hope that it sells forever. Talked about episode 14. We were looking at organized play and community focuses, like basically how a company or a designer or something, a professional, can help the locals create a better place, a more structured place to be able to play their games. Episode 15, we talked about the how important conventions are to a freelancer. That is such a golden rule. And over this last year and a half with COVID and no conventions, there's a lot of freelancers that have not managed to survive. They haven't made it through, because if you don't have that face-to-face handshake mentality, sometimes you can't get the job. So you got to get past it. You got to start emailing people, Facebooking them, that sort of thing. We did a couple of very fun episodes. 16 was just a storytelling, sitting at the hobby desk telling stories. That was just fun to talk about old cool stuff that had happened. Episode 17, we had the Gen Con charity game broadcast. That was the actual Spelljammer game that we ran for charity. That was us putting it out there. I remember the technical issues we had with that episode. There was microphone problems and editing problems, and a big chunk of time just got dropped off. We were still learning here at the channel. 18 was actually the review of how Gen Con went, from the perspective of a freelancer. That was a very positive episode. Episode 19, when freelancing gets hard. I've done a couple of these different episodes where we talk about, hey, sometimes life as a freelancer is not life in the industry is not perfect. And this was one of those episodes where I had to be very plain and tell people sometimes it sucks to be a freelancer, and that was where that was. Um, Episode 20, we talk about brand fandom. That's where people are so addicted to their brand that no GW can do no wrong. You can't talk to me about it, and everybody's got theirs. For me, it's the DC Comics. I can ridicule them, but I'll never leave. Where you can overlook some mistakes or some or oversights and things because you love them so much. Um, Episode 21 was about how to make connections, was how to network and how to help with as someone on the outside that's not connected to a particular company, trying to figure out how to talk to people and to create your network, if you will. Episode 22 was whether or not running convention sessions, the best ways to make it so they run smoothly, they run well, they don't run too early so your players are then just staring at you for the rest of their time slots. And then episode 23 is a very important one. That was the consent in gaming episode. That was the episode where we talked about the Green Ronin or Monty Cook. I think it was Green Ronin. They did the tabletop consent form. While I do not believe it is necessary at every table, I think it is useful at a lot of tables, and it helps players interact with each other and with the game master better for the people involved. Again, your table might not need it. Everyone might be old friends, and everybody knows each other, and everybody knows what sort of things are no at the table. But for new games or for one-offs or things at a game store where you just have like random walk-ups, it's a good idea. Number 24, episode 24 goes hand in hand with that. That's the be a good player for your table. That's the don't make it your mission to be a jerk. Try and help people, help the story, help the game master along, help your fellow players. And that's not necessarily mean that you can't play like a sneaky rogue or anything. It just means as a player, be good. Episode 25, Dice Hoards and Superstitions. That it's self-explanatory. It talks about the various things that gamers and myself even believe. Episode 26, The Great Wage War, talks about money within the industry, and some of those numbers have even changed from then to now. So that's, although it was a good episode, keep in mind some of those numbers have already changed. Episode 27, How to Make Good NPCs, is a DM tip. I did several DM tips episodes where I was like, hey, as someone who runs a lot of games, this is what we got. So this is how to make good NPCs. You're good and believable, not good as in morality. Episode 27, using the spooky or scary elements in role-playing games. It is exactly what it sounds. It was a way for me to basically point out how to add some horror to your role-playing games without playing specifically a horror role-playing game. Episode 29, role-playing game must-haves. I actually, as a designer, hate the term must-have, but I think as a player, there's a lot of things that you want to see at the table. Episode 30 was a special episode where we brought on a special guest, my wife, Natalie Steele. We talked a lot about her art and her portraits and her ability to draw some fantastic things and sell prints of, which you should totally check out her website and buy prints from her of amazing things like Captain America, Wonder Woman. She does a lot of pop culture, a lot of Walking Dead references and stuff. We had episode 31, the Sahagwin Hobby Day. Back to the hobby rig and painting Sahagwin. That was just a fun, talking about fish people. Episode 32 was Wargamer Thanksgiving. This was my way of, basically, I was I gave thanks to the different aspects of the industry. I just kind of talked about what I was thankful for as a wargamer. Episode 33, character morality. That's a lot about alignment, a lot about doing good and evil with your characters, especially in systems that don't use alignment. 34, episode 34 was playing the villain. Goes hand in hand with character morality. This was a bunch of hints and reminders on how to do a good villain that your protagonists are gonna hate, but you want your players to love to hate them, not like actually, oh, I hate when this guy shows up. Episode 35, Loot 101. That was just talking about treasure. It was talking about where to stop and what's a good idea of how to give treasure to your players. Episode 36 is a DM tip of hiding the rails. This one I've actually I've tagged lots of times in different Facebook groups and things, because people are always like, I'm a first time DM. I feel like I'm railroading my my group. How do I stop that? This episode talks about how, as a DM, you can still structure your game to have an A, B, C, D, E flow, but there are ways for you to hide the fact that, yeah, you guys are doing all the traveling, you know what's going on, except. Episode 37 is Finding a Balance. Finding a Balance was basically trying to figure out how to balance family, work, professional, gaming, all these different aspects of life, and making it work as a person without making your head explode. Episode 38 was Hobbybots Rollout. I was painting some Transformers from the WizKids pre-primed Transformer series, which sadly they still have not put out a Wave 3 yet. Episode 39, Fandom Power for Good or for Evil. That was my way of pointing out that sometimes being super focused on a fandom is not so great for everyone else involved. Episode 40, Making the Most Out of the Worst. That was it was an episode basically about how to salvage a game out of bad happenings, bad plots, bad characters, how to basically take a negative situation and hopefully turn it into something good for your game. Episode 42, Dealing with Loss. This was a personal episode because we had a loss in the family, the collective gamer family, and this is actually something that has come up several times for some people very close to me. Is sometimes it is difficult when your gaming group loses someone, and to a lesser degree, when like someone loses a character in the game. How do you deal with that on a story basis? You don't just replace them the next time and go, oh, here's your replacement. Or if you do, it might come off as callous. Video 43, making the classics work for you. That was just a look back at some of the classic tropes that people use. You don't have to avoid them because they're classics. You can use them and make them work. Number 44, DMing should be fun, not a job. That was very much a point at, if you don't want to run your game because it's become an obligation and, I guess I got to run my game. Don't, because it's going to reflect, your players are going to know that you don't want to really be there. Episode 45, using and avoiding language barriers. That was basically all about in-game linguistics. Both for and against using languages as a way to hide information or hide plot devices, things like that. Episode 46, hobby time should be fun. This was a kind of the player version of the DMing should be fun, not a job. This was like the player version. Is you should be enjoying yourself. It should not be a chore. Number 47, words are powerful. That is very much the both in-game and out-of-game watch what you speak. Watch how you speak. Episode 48 was the Gary Con 12 episode, where we talk about how Gary Con 12 was supposed to go down. But you will note that we were discussing everything going on at the time, and it was not a a convention explanation like we hoped that it would have been. Episode 49, Being Heroically Monstrous. That was kind of a guide on playing abnormal or monstrous characters, but still being on the side of good. Episode 50, The Year of the Nerd. That was basically just us sort of looking back over our first year of being a professional nerd. And then shortly after that, we did our first session of the Arcane Promise, which actually was video 51 here at the channel. And then from there on out, we actually started doing our own channel, our own playlist for those. Episode 52, Looking Back Over Year 1. That was, Year of the Nerd was looking forward, all the cool stuff that was going to happen. Episode 52 was looking back over stuff that had happened. Then we had our session 2 of Arcane Promise. And then we tried to go live on Zoom on episode 53 to try and bring in some players to ask questions and things, and it did okay. It wasn't great. Episode 54 was a Happy Mother's Day. It was a Mother's Day episode to kind of highlight all the cool moms in the industry. Episode 55 was Necron Hobby Day. That was us not only talking about some of the new Necron stuff that had been coming out, but also just painting new stuff and really sort of reveling in my favorite 40K faction. Episode 56, Celebrations and Freelancing. I don't remember, I'd have to go back and look at the video. I don't remember what we were celebrating, but I do remember that it was one of those things where if you're a freelancer, this thing comes up quite a bit, whether it's a product coming out or signing a new gig or you got permission to do something that you hadn't done before. But it gave you a reason to be like, yeah, I'm a freelancer. Then there's another episode of Arcane Promise, and then episode 57, us talking about 9th edition 40K. So yeah, it's been out a while. But I was super psyched. It was new for us, and very cool. Love 9th edition. Episode 58, The Power of Social Media. This was the pros and cons of, as a game industry professional, social media is a double-edged sword. You can use it to help boost up your own sales, your own exposure, but you can also put your foot in your mouth and really hurt yourself. Then we had episode 3 of Arcane Promise, and then episode 59. This is probably one of the most watched episodes on my channel. It was the Warzone chat with Alex Knaus. Alex is my boss over at Resnova Games. He is the one that specifically brought me on board to make the new Warzone Eternal. And that was our way to really introduce him and talk to the public about what we were planning on with Warzone, what the parameters of what we thought was going to be success with that kind of game. It was a really good conversation. So if you're even remotely interested in Warzone, you should totally go back and check out episode 59. Then we had a small video that was an apology for technical difficulties. I don't know what was going on, but we couldn't do a video that week. Episode 60 was discussing the D&D married couple. Basically, the married couple that plays D&D together and the pros and cons of that relationship. Episode 61 was a hobby chit-chat. That was we set up the hobby rig to paint some models and just talk about stuff. Some of those are just fun. You get some interesting stories out of me. Episode 62, DM tips was DM versus PC. This was the, in my opinion, the misinformation that a DM needs to be versus the player characters. It has to be against the player characters. We are adversaries. No, you guys are both telling the same story in different ways. You're trying to make a collective cool story moment. Everybody's supposed to have fun. It doesn't need to be a war, because honestly, if it was a war, the DM would win. He gets to set the parameters. Then another Arcane Promise session. Then we have episode 63 talking about homebrew, talking about making your own games, making your own content creation, your own world settings, kind of the pros and cons of that. Episode 64, dealing with metagaming. That was a discussion on how do you deal with someone who is using out-of-game information for their character in-game, or making decisions, or just the general stuff that you shouldn't be doing if you're a good player. Episode 65, I was showing off my buddies from his Etsy shop, the Paint Pot Bunkers. Episode 66, chaotic versus structured design. This was a showing people the different ways as a designer you can plan out your projects. Episode 67, are you a Santa or a Scrooge? This is something that a topic that I've brought up many times. It is, do you give your players everything they want all the time and then just make that part of your story, like you figure out how to make it work? Or do you make them work for every little thing that they get, and what they end up picking up ends up being a big benefit, because your world is much less of, here, have this. Episode 68 was painting the Iron Throne. I was painting the Iron Throne from Song of Ice and Fire for eBay, and it's long since sold and hopefully at someone's house being well enjoyed. Then we had another Arcane Promise, and then episode 69, let's talk about the DC fandom. Big DC boy. It was basically just a review of how cool the fandom was. I'll do another one later this year when they have their other one in October. Episode 70, should you keep a secret? That was more of an episode about the power of knowledge and secrecy. Whether it's being in the game or as a player, as a game master, that it's the benefits and drawbacks to having information at the table that not everybody has, or information in your friend circle that not everybody has. That was a deep episode. Episode 71, designing for balance. That was a look at when you've got a game design put in front of you, like here are the rules, and they want it to be as fair and balanced between factions or models or whatever as possible. This was an episode specifically about trying to keep that balance. Episode 72, having fun with the IP. That was a fun. That was a great episode for me. It basically, I got to highlight how writing for Shadowrun and Warzone and some of these other licenses, these like long-term trademark copywritten material, adding to that in your own way without screwing over all the stuff that's come before is awesome. And it feels, and we explained how that was happening. Episode 73, Ingredients in Tasha's Cauldron. That was us just doing a quick overview of what came in Tasha's. It is no secret, I am not a huge fan of a lot of that book. I feel that it gives players way too much leeway in creating min-maxed characters as optional rules. But it was an important product, so we needed to talk about it. Episode 74, writing a good cast of characters. Again, this is not a morality thing. This was just basically what's a good way of of filling out your world without it being, oh, here's Bob number 7, the stable boy, that kind of thing. Episode 75, the Autumn Revel 1. The first annual Autumn Revel, that was basically us talking about a very cool, um, a very cool online game convention that it sounds like they're going to have more as time goes on. Episode 76, let's look at some fun models. That was just a model preview. We're taking a look at some cool models. Episode 77, Rated R Gaming. This was a hot topic for several people. It was, where do you draw the line of good taste? If you've got a table full of adults, do you go ahead and just crank it up to R and not care? If you've got one kind of less mature person, do you dull it down and kind of avoid that? Or do you just, as a rule, ignore it because you don't want anybody to be squidged out by R-rated stuff? Video 78, Politics and Gaming. Same idea, except instead of it being R-rated material, a how to use political intrigue and also avoid real-world politics as best as possible at your game table. Episode 79 was me answering a bunch of I wish I knew questions that we had put up. I need to do another one of those here pretty soon, another AMA and Ask Me Anything. Episode 80, Brian's Freelancer Thanksgiving. This was me explaining all the things I was thankful as a freelancer at the time. Episode 81, Editing, Blessing or Curse. That was as a writer and a designer talking about the pros and cons of a good editor. Episode 82, Lore Master's Guide Walkthrough. That was my first DM's Guild product, the Lore Master's the Lore Master's Guide Path to Adventure had just gone to was now open on the DM's Guild for download, and I wanted to walk people through and show people what was in it. Episode 83 was just a Happy New Year. We talked about the year passing stuff, stuff we were looking forward to. That was just a celebratory. Episode 84, Generosity in Gamers. This is where I got really heartfelt because it was one of those things where I don't remember what I had received at that time. I don't know if it was the Serap Tech or if it was the printer, but whatever it was, it had touched me, and that's where the things like the Amazon wish list and stuff have come from. Talking about the fact that a lot of you readers out there, a lot of you viewers, if you feel like you want to do something for the channel, if you want to, send me a pat on the back. Now I've set up that Amazon wish list specifically for that. Episode 85, Ups and Downs. That was an episode. I don't remember what had happened. I think the car had broken or something. But I was basically talking about how life can throw you some curveballs, and you got to be able to ride it as best as possible. Episode 86, Fiction Power, was a discussion of as a writer messing with someone else's IP. We have a great deal of power in our words, and explaining on how to make that work for you without changing the fundamental nature of someone else's product. Episode 87, Drug Use in Games. This goes back to like the whole rated R thing. Is some games are okay with it, other games it is verboten. It just depends on the game and the setting, but specifically here was a couple of ways of how to make it work, hopefully as a game element. Episode 88, Don't Hate the Player or the Game. That was very much everybody has an opinion about some things. You might not like a particular game, but don't come at it with both barrels and being like, this is terrible, this is the better game. Just let people enjoy what they enjoy. Number 89 is Painting Light Colors. That's another Hobby Rig episode where we're showing you how to paint the lighter shades of things. Then we have another Arcane Promise. And then episode 90 was Hard Cuts. I don't remember what Hard Cuts was. I think Hard Cuts was an episode based off of like sometimes the things that you've got to remove from your manuscript or your game. The Hard Cuts, I remember. These were my hard takes. These were my, you guys might not like my opinion, but here it is anyway. Episode 91, a Bryan AMA. Again, I need to do another one of these here pretty soon, where you guys go on Facebook or go on Instagram or go on TikTok or whatever and ask me a bunch of questions, and then I'll give you as much solid answer as I can. I think I'm gonna wait until until I have one more good like big announcement or something, and then that way you guys have something to ask about. Episode 92 was all the toys. That was where I was getting. I got a whole bunch of like shipments from different companies and Kickstarters and things, and I showed off a bunch of cool stuff. Episode 93 was a review of Zack Snyder's Justice League. If you are a movie fan and a superhero movie fan, I highly recommend going checking out my review. But I recommend even more going to HBO Max or if by the time you watch this it's out on Blu-ray. Get Zack Snyder's Justice League, and it blows everything else out of the water. Episode 94 is the Cursed Empire special, talking specifically about the Kickstarter that's going to start on May 31st, and the product line that leads up to that and will be available afterwards. Episode 95 was my me going over my 9th edition squats, part 1. Episode 96 was part 2. Episode 97 was an unboxing of the Dwagum set for Conquest. I've started putting some of that stuff together. Hopefully we'll have a hobby day here pretty soon to show you some paint, get some paint on some of those models. And hopefully, once I get all that stuff put together, maybe I'll actually get to play a game. That'd be great. It'd be fantastic. Episode 98, talking a bunch of my friends going to Kickstarter, speaking of Cursed Empire, but also, Dave Taylor's The Art of Books, was it Devil Dice Island? Sirens is still up by Satine and Jameson. Just a lot of really cool stuff on Kickstarter when that episode came out. But we also talked a lot about how Kickstarter works. Episode 99, 2 weeks ago, stress management, because I was honestly kind of at the end of my rope on a few things, so I needed to be able to talk out loud on how to deal with stress because I was not dealing with it well. And then, episode 100. Here we go. The look back at all of the old episodes, the talking about how the channel works, where I want to take I know we're going over on time, but where I want to take the channel from here. Like I said, I do want to maybe open up a Twitch channel to do some like gaming events that go hand in hand with the YouTube show. My TikTok is doing great, but as a platform, it has revealed itself as more fun, less useful. And Arcane Promise, I wish I could promise more, but it's hard to put that stuff together. Too many moving parts with industry folk. But I'm hoping that between, I got so many new things and, new things coming out, and the convention scene is going to start kind of slowly trickling back together. I'm really hoping maybe get some more guests on the show. That would be great. Zoom in some more guests. I know here pretty soon. I'm feeling it. I think that we're going to be at the point with Warzone here pretty soon where we're going to be able to start talking about specifics and maybe get closer to that Kickstarter. But overall, I really think we're in a good place, and the show will go on. We will continue moving forward. Like I said, I'm putting up the Amazon wish list for you guys' generosities if necessary. I've been using my 3D printers quite a bit, or 3D printer quite a bit, making some cool stuff. And maybe eventually I'll start coming together with some ideas on how to use it to make even bigger, cooler things, like maybe some props. It's been a long time since I've made a good cosplay prop for anybody. But yeah, we'll see. The show really has helped me stay sane and keep my head screwed on tight, and has very much helped fight away a lot of dark days. giving me a reason to push forward and a reason to think about the future and think about all the good stuff that's happening in my life as a freelancer, my life as a professional nerd. And I'm really hoping that here's to the last 100. I'm hoping maybe when in another 100 episodes, when we do our 200th episode special, I'll be able to look back at this and tell you guys that you were the ones that were here from the beginning, and you helped me get to where all the places that I've been. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. I'm excited on what we can put together for the next 100, so to speak. In the meantime, obviously, do me a favor and share this, like, subscribe, hit the little dingy ding button, comment as often as possible. More interaction is better interaction, and make sure you share it to your friends and your Facebook groups and things. We want to expand the audience, get it to the point where I've got reasons to do really cool things for the show. So I guess without further ado, you know how it is. Please, like I said earlier, get vaccinated, stay safe, wear a mask, enjoy yourselves as much as possible as the world starts to become normal again. But give yourself a reason to smile. Get out there, enjoy yourself, and if you're gonna do one thing for me, play some games. I'll see you next week.